Unit 6, Day 2 homework tutorial. You're assigned to do all the problems of this homework sheet, but I will work through the odds to give you some guidance and definitely help you be able to complete the rest of your assignment. On the first 1 through 6 problems, it wants us to complete the similarity statement and then solve for x. So to write the similarity statement, you need to know which angles are congruent. So that's what we'll do first, mark up congruent angles. So on number 1, I see that there's a set of bow tie or vertical angles right here at N. So let's mark those. And then I see a set of parallel lines. LM and QP are parallel because of those arrows. So Q is congruent with M because those are alternate interior angles. And then that leaves L to be congruent with P, again because they're alternate interior. So we're looking first, the first triangle they listed was triangle LMN. So we would need to say it's similar to triangle PQN. Now that we've written our similarity statement, to solve for x, we need to set up a proportion using the proportional or corresponding signs. So I would know that ln is proportional with pn, and lm is proportional with pq. So now that I know that those are proportional, I'll write out the ratios. So again, I said ln is to pn as lm is to pq. So when I enter the values that they provide us, I have my proportion and I can solve it. So that's 18 over 12 equals x plus 3 over x minus 1. So now we're going to cross multiply. So you would have 18 times x, which is 18x, and 18 times 1, so that's negative 18. And it equals 12 times x, which is 12x, and 12 times 3, which is 36. Now I would subtract 12x from both sides, which would give me 6x minus 18 is equal to 36. Then I would add 18 to both sides, so I would have 6x is equal to 54. And then divide both sides by 6, so x is equal to 9. All right, let's go to our next odd problem. Number 5. Number 5, again, is a lot like the previous one. So let's first mark up our bow tie angles as congruent. And then alternate interior, F and I, as well as E with H. That was supposed to be 3 arcs, but I ran out of space. So the first triangle they list is triangle GFE, and we have to say it is similar to triangle GIFC. H. Now that we have that, let's find out which sides correspond so we can write our proportions. So EG is like HG. And EF is like HI. So again, EG is like HG, where EF is like HI. So now let's insert the values that they provide us. EG being x plus 1. HG is x plus 3. EF is 3. HI is 4. So now let's cross multiply. So we have 4 times x, which is 4x, and 4 times 1, 4, equal to 3 times x, 3x, plus 3 times 3, which is 9. I would first subtract 3x from both sides, which would give me x plus 4 equals 9. Then I would subtract 4 from each side, so x is equal to 5. Number 3. Number 3 is different setup than the last one. And since I don't have the 4 proportional parts on the outsides of the 2 sides that are divided, being EF and ED, I don't have all 4 parts on those 2 sides. I would recommend that you separate the triangles into 2. So, in other words, pull out this little triangle right here, EHG, by itself. And label EHG with EFD. Also, let's mark up the angles that are congruent. So since E is in both triangles, that automatically makes it congruent with itself. Then you see parallel lines again. But in this situation, we have congruent angles G and D, but those are corresponding angles. They're same side, same position. So that's why they are congruent. Corresponding angles are congruent. Remember that from a couple units back. Don't forget your terminology. It's good review, especially when your final exam comes in handy. So that leaves the remaining angles are also corresponding angles. Okay, so now that I have my angles marked, the first triangle they listed was EGH, and we can now say it's similar to triangle EDF. I put D, but I wrote G, sorry. EDF. All right. So now we're going to label our separate triangles with their appropriate sides. So we have EG as x plus 5, and HG as 6. We have FD as 12. But we would have to find ED by combining both EG and GD. So we're going to add these two pieces or two parts together. X plus 5 plus 9 would be X plus 14. As you combine your like terms. And now you should clearly see which sides correspond, but if you don't, I'll highlight them. So HG is like FD because they both have the same angles nearby. And then EG is like ED. So now that we have that, we can write our proportions. So we would say, or could say, HG is like FD. That's a D, sorry. And EG is like ED. So insert the values. HG is 6. FD is 12. EG is X plus 5. And ED is X plus 14. So now we cross multiply. I would start with 6 first. So 6 times X is 6X plus 6 times 14, I believe is, no, 72. But let's verify by getting our handy dandy calculator. No, it's something with a 4. So I know I'm wrong. 84. All right. And it's equal to 12 times X, which is 12X, plus 12 times 5, which is 60. And then I would first subtract 6X on both sides. So that would give me 84 is equal to 6X plus 60. Then I would subtract 60 on both sides, which would give me 24 is equal to 6X. And then divide by 6 on both sides. So 4 is equal to X. All right, let's go to the back side. And number 7 says JK is equal to 7, so let's label that. KH equals 21. JL is 6. And LI is X minus 5. It wants us to find X and LI. So, since I do have the 4 parts on those two sides, I can say part is to part as part is to part. So in other words, when I write my proportion, I could say JK is to KH as JL is to LI. So let's insert the values. 7 is to 21 as 6 is to X minus 5. And now we cross multiply. So you would have 7 times X, which is 7X, minus 7 times 5, which is 35, equals 6 times 21. $126. Now I would add 35 to both sides, so I would have 7x is equal to 161, and then divide both sides by 7. I'm going to need my handy dandy calculator for this, definitely. Something with a 3, I know that much. 23. So x is equal to 23. Part 1 is done. Now it wants us to find Li, which was x minus 5. So in other words, it's 23 minus 5, which is 18. Number 11. PQ is 15, right here. QR is 8. MN is 10.8. It wants us to find NT, so let's call that X. So this one is a lot like the one we just did. We don't have to separate anything, but we have proportional parts. We could say PQ is to QR as TN is to NP, NM. Sorry. So again, PQ is to QR as TN is to NM. So let's fill in the values. 15 is to 8 as X is to 10.8. So let's cross multiply. You would get 8x is equal to 15 times 10.5. $157.5. And then you have to divide that by 8. Oh, it's 10.8. I'm so sorry. Rewind. 15 times 10.8 is 162 divided by 8 is 20.25. So again, that was 162. So x is 20.25. In other words, NT is 20.25, since that's what x was in this problem. And then our last odd says that not, if DE is a mid-segment of ABC, we haven't talked about it yet, but you will soon. A mid-segment connects two midpoints. So in other words, D is a midpoint, so this AD is congruent to DB. And then E is also a midpoint, so CE is congruent to EB. That's what a midsegment essentially does, connects two midpoints. Okay? Now that we got that out the way, let's label what they tell us. They tell us that AD is 5, and then they want us to find DB, so automatically that's also going to be 5 because they're congruent. Then it tells us that CB, which is this whole side here, is 8. And they would like us to find part of that 8, which is EB. So take 8 divided by 4. I'm sorry, 8 divided by 2, and you get 4. So let's put every part we have on the picture. And then they also mention AC is 12. And they want us to find DE. So let's call it X. There's several ways of finding DE. You can use a proportion like we've done in the past few problems. Or another fact about a midsegment is the fact that the midsegment will be half the size that it of the line that it is parallel to. So again, midsegment is equal to half parallel side. So in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is ED or DE, our midsegment, is equal to 1/2 of AC. And we have AC. So we would take 1/2 of 12, and half of 12 is 6. So DE is 6. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Please make sure you use what I've discussed here and complete the rest of this assignment. Good luck.